Welcome to the Carr Brothers with Jeff, Jack, and Jody Carr. They talk about current events, politics, community, and business. Take it away, boys.
Hi there, and welcome to the Carr Brothers Show. It's episode 151. I'm Jack.
And I'm Jeff.
And I'm Jody, the third of the three Carr brothers.
Well, we're very pleased to be joined with the Executive Director of the New Brunswick Provincial Exhibition, otherwise known as NBEX, a long-standing position in Fredericton. Many people would remember going to the exhibition grounds in the fall for the exhibition, and there's many other things that take place there on the exhibition grounds. However, what's taking place now is the NBEX is facing an expropriation process by the City of Fredericton. Hasn't been determined yet, so we're pleased to be joined by the Executive Director, Rae Tretiak from NBEX, to fill us in, let us know how things are going and what are the next steps that's taking place. But Rae, thanks very much for joining us.
Thanks for having me, gentlemen. Proud to be here.
Good. Well, how long have you been Executive Director? It's fairly new, isn't it?
Yeah, whopping 7 months and counting.
Wow.
Yeah, it's been baptism by fire. I think we heard that term earlier.
Yeah.
7 months and going strong. Absolutely.
Now tell us about what's taking place between the City of Fredericton and the NBEX.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's no surprise. I mean, you'd have to live under a rock to not notice some of the stuff that's happening. And there's a fury of activity around the site right now. And the major question on everybody's mind is, what is the situation with the expropriation and what are we trying to land on as a successful outcome? I've always been of the mindset that in order for all people to be satisfied around a table, everybody needs to win. And we're pretty confident we're working together with people 3 steps on the payroll higher than me on both ends to come to a successful conclusion and see a reimagined Fredericton Exhibition.
So even though there's been a filing of an expropriation by the City of Fredericton, there's still a possibility that the land may not all be taken over by the city. So there's still a glimmer of hope, is there?
You could do a whole show right on expropriation. I'm sure you could all agree.
Right.
And it's been a learning process throughout the entire thing. The expropriation filing took place as an effort to get the ball rolling in some sort of positive momentum. This is not new. I mean, I think the organization and the city has been at it for quite some time now, years as a matter of fact. Yes. I look at it more as can't really focus on what's been happening in the rearview mirror. We're looking in the windshield to make them in proportion for a reason. And we're getting there. There's some stuff happening that we're very positive about. We're very excited to hear. Okay. And then there's just simply stuff we can't talk about right now out of respect to all the organizations involved, right?
To the process.
Yeah.
But could you, for people that are under those rocks, could you tell tell people, so what is the issue?
Yeah.
The city wants the land, they want to develop, it's underused, or what is the issue?
Yeah, well, I mean, let's face it, we're 30 acres of land in the downtown core. So it's a very juicy topic, no matter what side of the table you sit on, right? From NBEX's organizational standpoint, we have an issue of people don't exactly quite know why we exist or what we do. You know, we operate as a not-for-profit organization, have done so for 198 years, going on 199. So there's a little bit of history there. And we do everything from the Frex, as we've all kind of grown up knowing it as, myself included. Couldn't wait to go to the Frex as a kid, right? But we're a 365-day operation. We host over 65 events throughout the year. We don over 200,000 people on our doorstep, and those are the ones that we can count. You know, there's many more above and beyond that. We rent our facility to like-minded not-for-profit organizations, and our main existence is for the agricultural component of life. You know, we teach kids where their food comes from. In a world where we're super, super connected, more so than ever before, we are more as a group of people disconnected than we ever have been. So giving people a gathering place, a place to come together, bump elbows, talk and hang out and have a great time. That's really the business that we are in. And providing that platform, in 50,000 square feet of indoor space, 1,000 parking spots outside that can be converted and used from everything from car shows and Christmas tree sales to big outdoor barbecue pits. We're in it for everything. And we like to try to tie everything back to that agricultural component of why we exist. And there's a lot of moving parts involved in that.
So currently then the Provincial Exhibition leases the land from the city? It's a long-term lease right now?
Yeah, I think the lease is done in 2031, renewed every 20 years. And the understanding is as long as we uphold our obligation, then that lease is there for what they call quiet enjoyment. And the stipulation on our side is to organize and operate an agricultural event annually and not miss 2 years consecutively, which, if I'm reading the history books correctly, has never happened.
Right.
I believe there was 1 year back when COVID was in play, where unfortunately the lay of the land wouldn't allow for large mass gatherings of people. But even then, the organization was very pivotal during that time, and we acted as a Horizon Health zone.
Yeah,
that's right.
For injections and for information sharing.
So what I'm curious is where this started. Was the city wanted to cancel the lease, or they wanted to take over the property, or they wanted the property back?
Yeah.
Or are they doing it to speed up get a resolution?
But what is the resolution on though?
Yeah.
But what is the resolution?
good.
What is the problem that we're trying to get?
Usage of the land, I suppose.
Is it usage of the land? They want more housing, or what's the issue?
I think there's some information that needs to be debunked, because it's one of those questions where if you ask 6 different people, you're getting 6 different answers.
Also, from your perspective, without speaking on behalf of those other 6 people, what's your perspective of what the issue is?
I mean, let's face it. When we originated horse racing and agriculture and farming and the lack of other communication tools, some of which we have sitting in our laps right now, they weren't available. So people needed a common space to come together and learn about the industry trends, understand some of the issues that fellow farmers might be having on their land that they may not be able to convey at a simple type or text or ask of an AI bot. So that was the role that we played then. Now we still play the same role, but is it to the same sheer size and capacity as it once was?
Okay.
People used to don their very best, come on out to the horse races, spend a week on the grounds, take in all that they could see, go on a ride, have some fun, and then head home. And today, the component of how that person participates looks different.
Oh, okay.
So in order to reimagine a space and take the space that's not really in play 98% of the year, it leaves the door open for some other development.
Okay.
The school is a component. The province needs a school. The city needs a school. Our kids need a new school.
Okay.
And there's lots of space there for one. And we'd be foolish to say, hey, we're not interested in having 900 middle school students in our own backyard.
Parents and family coming. And
that doesn't necessarily sound like an aligned forefront in my eyes, right? So the school is one component of that. Our existence and what that footprint looks like is another component of that. And what do we actually need to operate and stay within our core values?
So maximizing the usage of the land, and ideally everyone trying to maximize to a win-win solution idea. But in order to initiate or get those conversations maybe progressing along, then I guess you have to find some avenues to have that happen. So it's ideally, if we're looking at maximizing the use, then that's interesting, and those discussions maybe keep continuing, I guess. But.
Yeah, they're evolving, and you keep in mind too, as we are a not-for-profit organization, we're operated by a board of directors, and those folks are volunteers. Some are active within the workforce still, some are retired, some are just dipping their toes into what being a volunteer in your community is all about. So in essence, the phenomenal side of that is I have 12 bosses to pay attention to, not just one, which is great. The breadth of knowledge around the table is phenomenal. And we're able to get different aspects and angles on everybody, but you're working on a different calendar. You can't just flip an email out in a corporate world and then an hour later expect to have a decision when you're working with that type of environment, right?
So the geographical region there, or area, does it include the Williams and the Suregrain and the Tim Hortons? And does the exhibition receive a benefit from those leases of those other businesses currently?
Yeah. So it's all 30 acres. That's what the expropriation is focusing on, and what the land takes up is 30 acres, which includes all of those organizations who lease to us. The buildings are there. They lease them to us. And then those resources are then put back into our not-for-profit operating, which is to stimulate agriculture.
But for the Tim Hortons and the William, like, you get a certain type of arrangement there to
Correct.
get some revenue. Oh, good.
Yep.
So there's potential for future too then, and that type of discussion maybe is happening. Do you know how you expropriate land that you already own, though? So if the city already owns the land, how do you expropriate land back to them? Do you ever get asked that question?
I do, and I really don't know how to answer.
I am wondering how that works.
Yeah.
Why?
I think if you ask the same question to 6 different people about who owns the land, you'll get 6 different answers. And it's not anybody's fault. If you look back through the history books and you look back through the leases that have been written and the reason the land was given to the Agriculture Society 34 in the first place, it can steer folks in.
Was it
in
1934? Did you say?
No, it was 1887. Agriculture 34. AG 34 is our agriculture number. Yeah.
And so you've been operating on that site since that?
Not that particular site. No, thank you for bringing that up. That's good.
I'm just under that rock trying to find out what's going on here. I've heard something about my bracelet's not going to work anymore on those rides. So
there you go. There you go. We've actually lived through 2 other relocations. Our first location was near the York Street train station, and we had a beautiful facility down there in the 1800s. You build with what you have at your fingertips, so it was a completely timber building. Unfortunately, it was lost to fire, and it was an absolutely beautiful building. If you can find it in the archives,
I've seen it on Facebook.
It's a It was a phenomenal building, and gentlemen, trust me, right now, if that building was still standing, we probably wouldn't be having this conversation today.
Yeah.
The relevance of what happened in that building is still happening today on our land and within our facilities. But, due to being removed twice, and this is our 3rd building, the 2nd building was down by where basically the Beaverbrook Art Gallery is now. Again, a timber structure, lost it to fire, and then eventually made our way up to Smythe Street and evolved that chunk of land as we grew.
So through that many successive leases might have something to do with, so then you're like, okay, well, who actually, if you wanted to make a claim to court, who has had possession of that land for this amount of time, and so who's on title and all this. So I guess might be some reason why they have to go through expropriation, just to make sure that they're not just canceling their lease, but going through this process.
Yeah, very interesting. And like you said, there's been years of back and forth of trying to come up with solutions of land usage, and it's sort of come to a head here in the last month with this filing of the expropriation by the City of Fredericton.
It kind of is interesting in a way that if the expropriation application is going, it's kind of like an acknowledgement that you do own the land.
Yeah, the expropriation process begins with not only the filing of it, but then assigning an officer to come in and do an audit of the reason to why the expropriation is necessary. Right. And then there's a whole bunch of reports that are tabulated and sent in, and then the powers to be need to decide what strategy they're going to roll out next. I think the key component here is about progress. and about movement, wanting to see something come of a space that could be utilized for different areas that hit some hot topics, not only within our city, but right across the country, housing and schooling and things like that.
It forces a discussion, right?
Well, it does force
people at the table. And
do people think that are there comments that people are quite upset about this kind of does people see this as a drastic kind of hard, heavy-handed move where the city's threatening to take over the land? So then would that put you in a disadvantage for negotiation?
Here's the beauty of it is we have done a horrible job of telling our story.
Okay.
You know, I've dropped a couple tidbits of information just as we've talked today, and even that will be eye-openers for some folks listening, which is phenomenal. But the usage of the land really sort of, if you're looking at the stories and who people decide to sway on online, the common thread there is, you know, is it useful? Is it only the exhibition and Ribfest twice a year?
Exactly,
you know?
for 3 weeks, right? And that's it.
Yeah.
So come on, guys. What are you crying about?
Right, and we're talking about $3 million in annual revenue as a not-for-profit organization. We're the largest agricultural not-for-profit in the province. We donate the majority of that back to like-minded organizations throughout our city and spin that up. You know, you're looking at just during the exhibition alone, working with agriculture societies and funding them up and over $100,000 just during that 7-day event. You know, fast forward to the rest of the calendar year, 65 events in 52 weeks.
Right.
We flip our event space multiple times in a weekend. Mm-hmm. We're setting up for a big one this weekend as we speak. And the economic spin-off that not only our major events that we create throughout the year, but the other ones that rely on our space to produce is significant for our downtown community. It's not just a dilapidated old racetrack, my words, others. You know, and an empty event space. I even saw a post on Reddit that we were an abandoned derelict building. You know, and what people may not necessarily see is we just spent $225,000 on the interior of the horse barns, making it a multi-use barn. Mm-hmm. We just painted it, you know, the exterior of the building. That's not cheap. We put in $100,000 security system and upgraded our sprinkler systems to meet code. You know, that's all because of the 65 events that we do throughout the year, so that we can continue to support and be a backbone and a network area for the agriculture world in New Brunswick and the country.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. 65 events in 52 weeks. That's substantial. That average is obviously easy math, more than one per week. Mm-hmm. And when you put the exhibition for a full week in there, occupying that time, it's quite something. Really, it is. I mean, we see on Facebook all the time people posting, you know, tattoo expos, home shows, energy efficiency shows, concerts, circuses, you know, and then the agricultural side with the large animals and things. There's a lot going on there in really in a pretty small footprint.
And a lot of people like
considered.
The food venues, the little huts, the little food market. People have mentioned they're concerned about where those are going to go and where they're going to get those that they've become used to getting for food, different food options, you know.
Yeah. And those are some of the ones that people see and hear about. You know, there's other function space that we utilize and offer that people they don't hear about it, right? You know, the hockey team that's looking to do a can drive, or the place to go and place Christmas trees after the holidays so that there's a general pickup area. Car shows, you know, that raise money for charity. Shout out to the Lions Club. They're number one revenue generator. God love those dippy dogs, man. If it wasn't for the exhibition, and you can ask them, they just had a record-breaking dippy dog volume here.
Wow. Well, that's a lot of revenue that goes back into the community too, right?
Yeah. Directly back into our community.
To help us.
Directly back.
The Multicultural Center, that's part of your footprint as well, right?
Multicultural Center is there as well, and it's on the grounds, and it plays a key role.
Huge.
You know, and we have a long-standing history with the Royal Canadian Military as well, which people may not necessarily know. During World War I, we played a key factor in ensuring some space for soldiers, giving people a common meeting place, which is the thread I'm going with here, guys. Back to the community. It gave people a place to come together in a very trivial time, in a very disrupted time. And fast forward to today, we hold private functions for active military members who are departing and finishing their career. We can house space for them to come together and have their final celebration. They're the last official call of duty, if you want to. So there's all kinds of that stuff that happens as well. There's many layers to this onion, and it's not as stinky as some people might let on.
No, that's a great line.
Well, we're going to take a quick break.
On that note, great overview.
Excellent. We're going to have a further discussion with Rae and talk about some more of the past and what changes or what exciting things are going to happen for the future. But we're going to take a few minutes right now and hear from our advertisers, our sponsors, our stakeholders with CHCO, and we'll be right back with you in a few minutes.
Hi there, welcome back to the Carr Brothers Show. It's episode 151, and I'm Jack.
And I'm Jeff.
And I'm Jody, the third of the three Carr Brothers.
And we're pleased to be joined by Rae Tretiak. He's the executive director of NBEX, the New Brunswick Provincial Exhibition, been in existence for almost 200 years in the city of Fredericton, currently on 30 acres of property, and we're in the midst of an expropriation filing by the City of Fredericton. And that's what we're discussing here tonight, how we got to this stage and what we're hopeful for in the future. So, Rae, thank you very much for being with the Carr Brothers Show. The first segment was just excellent to learn a little bit about the background and where we're at and how this has come to be. Tell us, are you hopeful that maybe there'd be a solution that could still take place? The city and the exhibition have been working on committees and things back and forth for probably 10 years at least. Do you still have some hope maybe that there will be a solution before we get too far down the road?
Short answer is yes. Ask my staff or anybody that has worked with me or knows me. I don't like stagnation. I don't like no progress. I'm of the mindset that there's a lot of very well-educated, well-paid individuals working on a common goal here, and some very well-educated, very strong opinion leaders in our volunteer segment as well that are trying to move this forward. So I'm very optimistic that in my short tenure here so far, 7 whole months, that we've seen some progress. There's lots of stuff happening behind the scenes, some of which can't really dive into, but there's also some boots on the ground stuff that has been happening too around the property.
Oh, like what?
Well, right now, the grandstand, the last remaining grandstand, it is coming down. We worked back and forth on a deal and talked to some organizations and settled on an agreement to do it in a fun, proper, professional manner. And the siding started coming off the building today, actually. So the dump trucks were moving things off of that.
And that's a separate sort of issue. That's a sort of progress, but also a building code type thing, and it's just part of the whole progress. It was going to happen regardless, I guess, at some point.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, the grandstands were there for, again, back in the heyday when the horse racing was a bit more of a spectacle, right? So we needed some space, and those grandstands have had a historical piece to it throughout our existence. We've had royalty all the way from England sit and watch harness racing for the first time ever in those grandstands as well. So there's some sentiment there, and I do shed a tear. I grew up in the area, and it is a piece of our childhood, for lack of a better term, that's coming down. But if progress is done properly, then everybody can win. Right. And I really think that this, along with some other steps that are happening, can pave the way to a bright future for everybody around the table.
Well, that sounds more positive than what my impression was. Is that this whole thing was going to be shut down
right down here?
Yeah,
what was
going on? Change the locks.
I suppose it's probably helped in a lot of ways to just raise the interest around what you have and to appreciate it, and maybe the public, maybe there's more support for the provincial exhibition than what we thought, or people that had quietly just took it for granted, now want to make sure it's kept, and maybe you've seen some positive with some reaction from supporters, I guess, around the province?
It's very heartwarming to see the messages and hear them. The phones ring daily. There's some miseducation out of there, and rightfully so. You'll get the phone call that, hey, there's a bulldozer in your backyard, and the very next phone call is, look, we get it, we understand, we're here to support you, how can we help? And everything in between. So yeah, we have been thrust into the limelight a little bit more than I think the organization is used to. It's not necessarily a bad thing either, right?
Yeah. No, definitely not.
So you, how can people support?
Phenomenal question. Phenomenal question. Like I said before, we we operate as a not-for-profit. We have a membership basis. Anybody can become a member of AG 34. And again, it's why we exist. It's very economically friendly to do so, and you get the insider information, and you get to stay up to date with everything that happens on the grounds, not just our fundraising efforts and where we spend our dollars, but also what the grounds are being used for. Of course, if you're in any type of social media platform and you follow along, there's a lot to be said for the click of a like or a quick comment or a vote of support that way. Because really my main goal through this whole thing is to make sure people know our story, not just what you see on the news, on the front of the newspaper or on social media. There's always more that's happening behind the scenes. So that's where myself and my dedicated 7 full-time employees come into play.
Well, I do see a lot of action on social media of people sharing different stories, different programs, different support. The former Premier David Alward shares a lot of information on there, and other former colleagues of mine and people friends of mine that use the exhibition grounds are heavily involved with agriculture. So there's a lot of support, it seems like, out there, and for them to keep sharing the stories is important. But it's fun to watch them.
Well, it's big to have someone like former Premier David Alward supporting and endorsing. He's raises cattle and has farming, agriculture farming as well, and but to have that endorsement must be pretty good to have.
Yeah, it's significant, and Dave has done a phenomenal job as a mentor as well to our group, to allow us to see things from a different perspective, which again speaks to progress, right?
Yeah.
And then you look at just the general community and the rest of the volunteers, and I think there's a common theme there, a common thread that everybody has in mind. It's everybody has a story of the exhibition. Everyone, we have volunteers who,
as we giggle, guys?
Right? Yeah, and some of these stories are great memories, and some of them may not necessarily be as much as a great memory, but there's always some connection there. We have volunteers who met at the exhibition and now are married. We have multi-generational volunteers who are still active, third-generation volunteers who their great-grandparents started and participated in the exhibition, and it's just been passed down, and developing a platform where you can bring people together in today's society, to me, is probably the number one thing on the to-do list. And it really should be for a lot of organizations around. We talk about sense of community, and we talk about having pride in where you live. In a world where we're so digitally communicated and not so much communicated in person, you need these platforms, you need these areas so that people can come together and have human interaction.
Social interaction and commonalities and liked shared experiences.
That's
the word I was looking for.
Shared experiences. It's huge.
You were saying like the Rib Fest, the lineups were right out the road, down the street, around the block, on the sidewalk, and where not. And so the numbers you've experienced have largely grown.
Grown and growing.
Growing
and growing to a point where, from an operational standpoint, there'll be a decision to make on how you harness that growth.
Right.
Okay. And then you take into all of the other stuff that's happening behind the scenes, and you say, geez, where do you think we could be if this stuff was already taken care of? That's what I look at. I just returned from national conferences in Calgary.
Okay.
One of the guest speakers we had on the closing day really hit home the connectivity and the community aspect of having a platform for folks to come together. And she did her spiel, and then at the end of it, she said, one of the hardest things we will do in the run of the day as a community now is look individuals in the eye. Mm-hmm. And having that opportunity to authentically connect. And she said that no matter what happens with technology in AI and where this world is going, the one piece that cannot be digitized or computerized is human relationships. Mm-hmm. Salesmen around the table would have to agree with me, myself with a sales and marketing background. That is the one component of life that will never change. And making that eye contact, she said, that'll be the hardest thing. You should have heard the reaction in the room. Mm-hmm. It was incredible. So I like to think of what we do is giving people a place to look each other in the eye.
A meeting place. So there's a National Association of what's it called? The National
CAFE. It's the Canadian Federation of Agriculture, which is an organization, again, a not-for-profit organization, which is a tool and a resource for the provincial chapters to connect with and come together and learn about best practices and challenges.
But for exhibition sites or for fairs or for
correct.
Okay. Yeah. And in New Brunswick, how many? There's other fairs and sites, and
there are.
And are they part of the provincial organization?
They are. Any of the local agriculture fairs or exhibitions in your hometown or community can be part of that provincial chapter. And again, that is the local resource that we use to come together and share best practices. So, for example, Woodstock may have a common theme that they're trying to address. Naquick or Harvey or Gagetown, just to name a few of them.
Stanley
is another one. That's
Albert County.
Albert County. Yep. There's a lot of them.
I remember going to the Boys Town Fair.
There you go.
Many years. They don't have it any longer, but
so they're all connected. Yeah. It's all connected as somewhat affiliated with the provincial exhibition. Mm-hmm. Oh, wow. And so then their success is your success, and your success at the provincial Fredericton site is a success, or certainly a spin-off, or it's connected to these other rural fairs and exhibitions. Yeah. So there's tentacles throughout the province that this is quite significant from that aspect as well.
That's phenomenal. I guess it's just been a great show, and we still are continuing our show talking about the New Brunswick Provincial Exhibition, but all these things that not everyone really realizes.
Because I know the Queens County Gagetown Fair was like phenomenally attended, which it often is, but this year in particular is like the numbers were over the top. I like the fact that it doesn't coincide anymore with the Harvest Jazz and Blues Festival in Fredericton.
Yeah, that was a good move.
Mm-hmm.
But
and they put it later in the season, which you would think that it would be
it was perfect
deterrent for people.
But the numbers were just over the top, and that's that meeting together, that kind of
people are ready now to get out more. Like we're just still now getting out and enjoying it from COVID. Like it just didn't happen where people came out now to gather. But I think, as you mentioned, record numbers at the Gagetown, record numbers at Ribfest in Fredericton.
Well, and it's that provincial kind of that provincial coordination, the provincial exhibition that can help bring together best practice and share and do better and organize and brand and promote.
So, this just me saying this, and the people in these communities,
by golly,
because they're part of the provincial exhibition, they need to be contacting their MLAs. They don't have a say, obviously. People that don't live in the city proper don't have a vote. We don't vote for council, things like that. But on the outside of the city, is you've got an MLA, and call your MLA and get them stirred up here a little bit.
Understand what's going on, what the impact is, what they can do to support, and also there's city MLAs too, at the provincial level, and maybe even the premier is part of that site is part of her constituency. I don't know, but I know it's a city issue, like you say, but it's good for people to become part of the conversation. And as you provided great leadership, Rae, showing the positive of that is, let's harness that interest then. If people can see the benefit of win-win-win-win.
The tentacle effect. I liked that. I like that. These rural fairs and exhibitions, we all have the same thing in common. but they're also very important in their communities with their economic drivers that they and the spinoff from those, right? The local convenience store owner, the local hotel owner, restaurants, big time, things like that, right? And we're all playing for the same common outcome, and that's to give people that place and that sense of community in a safe and fun environment, and in the challenges that we have in front of us today from all different multifacets, we're all facing the same issues. So having that platform on the provincial level and on the national level to come together and share some of those best practices and not reinvent the wheel really helps us be streamlined in our effect.
Because you mentioned that's where your national conference was just at, was the city of Calgary. And before you had mentioned the Stampede Grounds has 200 acres of land right in the city of Calgary, whereas here in Fredericton it's 30. But that's phenomenal, and that works extraordinary in the city of Calgary.
Maybe you could tell us a little bit more about that. What you found with that experience. It's on a larger scale proportionally, but couldn't be much different in terms of even the extra potential that we have in Fredericton. But tell us about your experience of seeing that.
Yeah, it was
Calgary
incredible.
Stampede.
It was incredible. You're talking the Stanley Cup of exhibitions, right? And the economic spin-off for the city of Calgary and the numbers that they got into, obviously astounding in volume and scope. But the thing that ran true to me was the synergy between the municipality and the organization. Again, you have a not-for-profit organization that operates 200 acres of land year-round in the downtown core. The municipality, the city of Calgary, has this opportunity that they want to grow their city and how they coexist together and work to bring that to life together. And that, everybody around the table in that component is winning. You fast forward and bring it down to a local level. You could argue that the Fredericton Exhibition is the Stanley Cup of the New Brunswick version for those fairs and organizations, and we too are seeing a growth in our active participants. We tripled our cattle entries this year. Oh, wow. Which was phenomenal to see. And then on the side of things, working with our municipality to make sure that we too do what's right for the people of downtown Fredericton.
Well, when you have provincial exhibitions and things like that, and I guess there's competitions and they're showing animals, bringing them from all over New Brunswick, maybe even outside of the province. That's just one thing. But then your tattoo expos and some of these craft shows, some of these events, Rib Fest, there's people coming to the city from all over New Brunswick and beyond. That's huge economic spin-off, as you mentioned.
We need that. We need that as a city. If we want to stimulate our economy and grow our base and introduce new adopters and adorers to the beautiful city of Fredericton and what we have to offer, then we need to get bums in seats, and it's not an individual effort. There's many different organizations out there that do that and do a great job of that, and we need to continue to be supported and uplifted so we can continue to do so. I'll be the first one on a soapbox to say Harvest is one of the those great events that has stood the test of time and has weathered some storms, for lack of a better term, literally, and what they mean to the city and what we mean to the city and what we can provide. It's not just a 7-day show, kids. This is where the school conversation, I think, comes in and hits home for me, most importantly, to put 900 students on a ground where they're 400 yards away from an active agriculture center, and they could have hands-on learning. What would that mean? And
so the potential.
Yeah.
Well, it's huge, and as you mentioned the school, because that's a proposal by the city is having the school there on site, the new, I guess, George Street School over to the exhibition grounds. But you've hit the nail right on the head, and I think people are starving for solutions for our education and having more things for children to do and to learn from hands-on. What better way, as you mentioned, than having agriculture 400 feet away.
Good
right
point.
there.
So the exhibition is open to having those kind of discussions about locating the school there.
We'd be foolish not to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And also about potentially maybe harvesting your own food for the school. Like there's so many spin-offs there too that the tentacles around what you just mentioned. So that's neat.
It gives them the exposure to that. The schools could walk the kids over on little field trips, but growing 4-H, understanding what 4-H does for kids of that age, and being self-sustainable into the future on the food side of things, but just,
and you got a grocery store.
Food security.
You got a grocery store right next door. You can go right from the field to the store, and you can see where it connects.
But food security potential. And food, like we have to, educate and teach more and more of our young people to be self-sustaining and can know how to grow a potato and
where it comes from.
Yep.
There's never been a time more important than now to teach kids where our eggs come from.
So wouldn't it be great to lease the land to the province to build a school that you can get ongoing revenue from? You're open to lots of discussions, aren't you?
When there's a will, there's a way. And
maybe there's a way we could work at getting that site so that you can still get some revenue from that long-term lease for a new provincial school.
Well, great.
I don't know. I just throw that out there.
We're ready for our second break.
Okay, perfect,
yeah,
Jeff.
End of our second segment already. Thank you, Rae. Great discussion.
Thank you.
We're going to come back in a few minutes. We're going to talk to Rae about what the future holds and any exciting projects or improvements that are going to be held at the exhibition grounds as we know it, as we call it. And we'll check in after this few messages.
Hi there. Welcome back to the Carr Brothers Show. It's episode 151. I'm Jack.
And I'm Jeff.
And I'm Jody, the third of the three Carr Brothers. And if you're just tuning in on our third segment, we have been having a great conversation around the Provincial Exhibition Grounds in the City of Fredericton. And Jack, hasn't it just been great?
Oh, it's just been really enlightening. We've learned a lot. We grew up at the exhibition grounds, but we've been talking about the city's filing of an expropriation of the 30 acres of land, otherwise known as NBEX, the FREX, as a lot of people might remember it. And hearing with Rae Tretiak, the CEO of NBEX, about the process. I mean, the city and the NBEX have been back and forth in committees and
I
trying
thought
to
that
come
was
up
all
with
dealt with.
land
They've
use.
been talking about this and talking about
land uses and this sort of thing, and then finally we got slapped with this expropriation.
They wanted to shut it right down, is what I thought.
Jeez,
They
thought
wanted
it
to
was
shut
over.
it right down. I couldn't believe it. Jesus, we could have had another conversation, just one or two more meetings, but
Exactly. So now, Rae, thank you for joining us.
My pleasure.
You've
Thanks, man.
really helped, I think, us and also our viewers of not only the history of the NBEX, but the value that NBEX, the 30 acres, the agriculture property, and all the events that take place. You mentioned something like 65 events, but the value that property and institution, it's been 198 some years or so in existence, has to the city of Fredericton, and what it generates every year. I mean, it's been phenomenal discussion. Thanks for joining us.
just the space available to have to do other types of things. But thanks, Rae. You've been doing good.
Thank you. Yeah.
Well, we were reminiscing a little bit on the break because we remember, and many would be able to relate of saving our money.
But
it was a big
work?
deal.
The first week of school, is it always the first week of school?
It usually was the first week of school.
And
It
then-
still is, right?
It is.
And
yes.
then so the Friday was half a day or something at school when you had started first. How'd that go?
Well, in our district, Fridays were half days.
Oh,
in our school district. I think they might have taken that away by now. But
can't
anyhow,
remember, but
so
the first
for
day.
us, I mean, some of you guys may remember, you may not, when we were younger, but some of my classmates would go to the then FREX every day.
Okay.
But not us, obviously. We went one day. It was probably the last Saturday of the
but
exhibition.
we also went, I remember some
I
with,
thought it was like the first day or the second day.
First day, we'd have a half day of school, and then we'd
Hit her
down
up to
with this. A lot of times, I remember we went with some with Karina, Ozzy, and Pam. We went with
Nan would drive us.
Nan
Carr.
as well, some, and but
Karina,
then the Saturday
Karina
as well. But
Karina
the Saturday
always,
was the big
Karina
day,
always
too.
liked the last Saturday because the fireworks were at the end. She also loved the horse racing.
Oh, yeah.
She loved betting on the horses too. So,
And,
but how we would fund our way
the
there?
bracelets, there'd be the bracelet
Day.
Bracelet day, yes.
Bracelet day.
And I think that was on a Saturday.
But
Maybe.
all-
Here we are debating about it and raising
No,
executive
I'm just
director.
trying to remember. But all summer we'd be raising our money.
Raising our
Big
money.
part would be collecting our beer bottles from Nan, from Grampy. From Grampy.
We all knew that was hidden.
So the 5 grandchildren would collect those beer
Collect all
bottles
that.
all year,
That'd be our
basically, and exchange them in and probably other people kicked in cash that we didn't even know about, but away we would go as a group to the exhibition every year.
And then Nan would always be maybe Crane or two, but I suppose would be doing bingo.
Playing bingo.
But what did they have?
The corn pieces.
That's what I was going to ask. Yes, I was thinking sunflower seeds, but what was
it?
it?
Was the corn.
Go to corn pieces. Took markers, so instead of the dabbers, it was on like the hard cardboard type bingo sheets.
And Nan would be there. We'd maybe run out of money or something. I know where Nan is. She's probably over at the bingo.
Yeah.
So we'd go over there and need another $5 or something.
Yeah. And then I was going to say gladly give it to us, but we'd get it, and then it'd be like, let's get on to another.
Yeah.
And I forget what the prizes were, but that was always fun.
Yep. And always go through the barns. We always went through the barns and the agriculture displays.
At least once.
Always find some time to go through there.
Always.
And then, well, I don't know. What about the rides?
I wasn't big on the rides.
I wasn't big on the rides
either.
either. Good. Okay. I thought that wasn't just me, but I couldn't remember.
Maybe the tilt-a-whirl.
Yeah.
Yeah, we do the
the
tilt-a-whirl.
yeah.
One time I went on the spider. Oh my
boys.
gosh. The rest of the time I was just all woozy and dizzy and...
Gravitron. There's a Gravitron, the zipper.
Yeah.
And then as we became there was many years that we probably didn't go between teenage years and once we grew up.
Or when we were working, it's hard to.
Then for many years, Jack, as elected officials, we would go at least on the last Saturday because a lot of our constituents had
Horses,
the draft horses.
Yeah, that's so much fun.
Just phenomenal to go in and watch those. Watch that show, but be in the barn with those folks when they're getting their horses ready and dressing them and
it's a community.
Crimping
it's
them.
A community.
It is. It really is. Just
people
see
helping
them
out
on
each
their
other.
yeah.
This team maybe something breaks, on a horse, whatever, and
On
then
their
they go and
harnesses, borrow.
go to another team and they lend it to them, and they're all competing against each other, but they're still like family.
It's neat that you picked that up. That's exactly what it is.
And
So
the
what-
amount of people that would go to the shows on Saturday and watch, the stands are full in the Coliseum.
And that's just 1 week.
That's
Out
just
of
1 week.
2 weeks, it's
Exactly.
just one. And as Ray has been mentioning, it's more than just that 1 week.
65.
It's 64 other events.
Yeah.
Well, that
64.
they organize and then others. But
Yeah, that's
also,
true.
you, Ray, you grew up at the exhibition every year. Tell us about your what you used to do.
It's interesting. I was asked the question when I was interviewing for the role of what drew you to the exhibition
to apply for this job.
Yeah, and I have a very unique story. I grew up in Nackwick, and I would save my allowance money throughout the week. I'd pick up an odd job here and there, wash Dad's car for $5, whatever he was willing to give me at that time. And then the added layer of my challenge of getting there is I'd have to, sorry Mom, but I'd have to hitchhike in.
Yes.
I'd have to hitch a ride into town because it wasn't on our doorstep. So we couldn't wait. We couldn't wait for the exhibition to roll in. And same thing, I created memories there as a kid that I'll tell for the rest of my life, and I'll tell my kids and they'll tell their kids. And at the end of the day, the product that we put out has this end implication.
Yeah.
Just exactly what you gentlemen did around the table. Everybody's got a story of the exhibition or an event that happened there, throughout the test of time. And we really want to embrace that. And I'm honored to be able to give Fredericton that opportunity.
Wow.
Cool.
That's what puts my feet on the ground every morning and why I go to work and work with the phenomenal staff. And we work with over 100 volunteers just for the exhibition alone. Where I mentioned earlier, we're a staff group of 7 people. We could not physically and mentally do the events that we do, in the run of a year without the help of our community, of our volunteers. That's what gets us there. So I wear it with a badge of pride to be able to give that opportunity to Frederictonians and beyond to come
Now
down.
look who's the CEO
Right, yeah, there you
of
go.
the exhibition.
Well, that's tremendous
Down
value.
through Nackwick, you'll be quite popular.
That's right.
It's amazing.
Just a tremendous value for the board and the organization and the association. When you have an executive director that wears it on his sleeve, and there's we know there's lots of associations that have EDs and it's just a job for them, and they do it properly, but not with the heart that Ray is talking about here. So that's very helpful.
It's very contagious.
Yes, and then you can start formulating what the future looks like, and let's use our imagination and grow this thing. So
You're open.
do you
for
have
discussion.
Is there any big plans in the future, like different direction for shows?
What's the future of the track?
The venues?
Is that still being operated? Are we still going to do racing?
Yeah.
Well, I'm not sure racing's in the future anytime soon, as far as the province is concerned. Is the problem?
Yeah. We have lots to talk about.
Yeah.
The track specifically, unfortunately, the race horsing community and events aren't as fruitful as they used to be. No. We still use the track for some exercise, and we do have some local horses that are stabled out there, and they use it for their daily operations right now. But the school component would land the majority on that track space. You look at some immediate things that are happening. We have a phenomenal holiday Christmas craft show coming up here the first weekend in December, and we've doubled that show. So short-term implication,
the vendors
doubled our vendors.
Wow.
So last year it was a very popular show. Wow. We had, I think it was like 60 some vendors, and I got looking at the waiting list to be on this year's show, and I said, we need to open both buildings. So we called everybody up, and now of course everyone was more than on game. So there's, between now and the middle of December, I believe there's about 11 more events to take place to finish out the year.
Wow.
Again, speaking to sort of the reason, that we're not just a one-trick pony. There's lots going on there. And in the future, there's some stuff going on. We've revamped Rib Fest, which will happen again in June. And we're reimagining where that food hut area is now. The food huts have been a phenomenal part of who we are.
Don't move those.
Right? The North Side Market was the original location. We acquired the huts and created an image for them. Over the years, they've sort of stood the test of time, and we've seen a bit of a reimagination needed for that space. So I don't want to let all the cats out of the bag.
Please don't.
No.
Speaking specifically to our agricultural existence, there's a very exciting project on the way for the spring of 2026. It'll be here before you know it.
Well, that's great.
Yeah.
That's just phenomenal.
It is great.
Well, that's what it's about. Is we shared our experiences and that's what it's about, is getting, and like you said, if the school was ever moved or the new school built there on site, just to have those new experiences for people, young and old as well, at the exhibition. And I guess I put a call out to people to reach NBEX.ca, I believe it is, and get involved, show your support, get a membership, let people know that, share
Rush.
on social media.
You do Gold Rush?
Yes. Gold Rush is our weekly
Jack.
draw.
I know. I'm sorry. I just thought
Well,
right
Gold
off
Rush
the bat.
came right to your mind.
Yes.
That's one way you could
right.
put your
An
money. Put your money. You didn't have a chance to win.
That's right.
That's right.
You could spin the wheel, or you could let them spin it.
But you gotta play every week to win.
Yes.
Can't win if
gotta
you don't play.
That's right.
But no, it's just to have new experiences and just for people, I guess that's the point, is to express their support for NBEX and the economic spinoffs and the need for it. If you didn't have it, there'd be a void of 65 events, and a lot of lives changed as well from that. So.
Yeah.
So keep up the good work. Anything else you'd like to?
I think I just thank you for having me. This is great, and I think I would end by saying all of the the economic factors and the numbers and the volunteer support and the communities that we touch and the organizations, all of that aside, I believe in the world that we live and breathe in today, the point and the opportunity to have a place in our own backyard where we can come and hang out with neighbors and do it in the flesh, to me is something that needs to be emphasized more than ever before. It's so easy to be distracted with our daily lives, and everybody's busy, and rightfully so. Yeah. And whatever stage you are in your life, youth, student, university student, young professional, retired, wherever, we all have that one common wire in our brain that wants us to come together. And we're losing the opportunity to do that in our communities, not just ours, but every community across our province and into the country. So being able to really embrace that and know that that's why we exist and will continue to do so, that's the grand slam home run that the Blue Jays had to hit that they didn't there.
Oh, you'll do it. You'll do it.
Oh yeah. We'll keep working at it.
Yeah, great.
Keep working at it.
What a great show.
Yeah. And as Jack said, people, you want to get involved, you want to know more about it. visit the NBEX.ca. And that ends our show for this week, guys.
It does.
Special thank you to CHCO, who continues to help us air this show every week. Terry, our director here in studio. Ray, thank you for being here.
Yeah,
to my brothers.
Thanks.
Very good.
Continue watching our past episodes on our YouTube channel, Facebook Live. We'll direct you to that. CHCO on, if you receive cable in the province of New Brunswick, you can see our show, and you can find us on any of your favorite platforms for podcasts. You'll find us there. The Carr Brothers, Jeff, Jack, and Jody Carr. So
great.
Until next week,
We'll see
we
you
will
next
see you again.
Good
night.